getting close to the time that dreams for in the middleweight tournament continue. So, it's about time for me to give my picks. Okay, it's a very hyped up card, obviously. We'll start with the slightly lesser hyped fights and move our way out. Alexander Caraco Ferreira is a considerably good fighter. He's out of the BTT. He has a lot of potential. He has a lot of ability. He has a lot of... Let's just say he could really win a lot of fights. Let's put it that way. Excellent ground game, good striker, and all that jazz. He is fighting... Now, normally I'm incredibly good with Russian names, but this name is... Alavuditin Gadziev. That's from somewhere in in the former southern USSR. I don't know if he's even Russian. I'm just using the generic term. So my usual strengths are kind of gone. And apparently he's actually from Russia. Okay, well anyways, relatively young fighter, 26, not terribly old. He hasn't lost since his debut fight back in 2004. And then he went on a bit of a hiatus and he came back. He's won every fight since. That being said, he hasn't fought a lot of talented fighters. Now, I've seen a couple of his fights. I've seen his name pronounced. I've seen 3 fights of his. I've heard his name pronounced 3 different ways. This makes me feel a little better. He is more grappling oriented, but he does have some striking. He has a sambo background. He also has some judo and some wrestling in his background. And generally, he could be a good fighter, but he's dealing with Ferreira. Despite sometimes an erratic fighter, is a very good fighter, and I think he'll just out-grapple him to a decision. I don't think he finishes him, which is weird for Ferreira, who's finished everyone but one fight. Of his 16 wins, he has 15 submissions, but generally the sambo guys appear to have pretty good submission defense. They just sometimes get just plainly out-grappled, and I think that's what we're going to see here. Next, Alistair Overeem versus Lee Tai-Hyun, also known as the can that Alistair Overeem's going to destroy. Anyways, he only has 2 fights. He's 1-1. For some reason, I think I've seen him fight, but I could be mistaken. I do believe he has no really notable skills on Alistair, though. Yes, he beat Yoshihiro Yamamoto and lost to Ricardo Moraes. I think my faith in him actually just lessened. Overeem, first round, TKO or KO. He should just destroy on him. He should just unleash on him. I mean, Overeem seems to be in a very good place. He seems to finally be taking advantage of his God-given skills and not gassing horribly anymore. I'm not really counting on that to continue, but it should work. This fight. Next, Hiyoko Takora versus Darren Yumayoma, who's a relatively new fighter, 4-1. Takora, when he fights up to his potential, is a very good fighter. He's a very mercurial fighter, though, in the fact that he doesn't fight up to his potential all the time. He's going to be a bit bigger, I think, than Darren. I haven't seen Darren, but it appears that he fights at featherweight, whereas Takoro, although he probably is best suited to featherweight, generally fights higher weight classes up to middleweight, which is ridiculous. Takoro should take a UD, just because he's not always the most finishing-oriented fighter. The Gracie Hunter, Kazushi Sakuraba versus Melvin Mahov. I can't go against Sakuraba. I've tried repetitively to go against him, but I just can't. Not for Melvin Manoff, anyways. Sakuraba's second round tap out. That's a sentimental one I'm blinded by. That's Sakugrad. So, keep that in mind. Mayhem Miller versus Ronaldo Jakar Salza. Taking Jakar, just a bit controversial, by unanimous decision. Now, Miller is the more seasoned MMA fighter, but from what we hear from Extreme Couture, we know Jakar is a great grappler. That we know. We also have heard that his wrestling and his striking are getting a lot better. and that's a scary thought. If he can get Miller to the ground, I mean, he's not going to have much of a problem going to a decision, just because Mayhem is just one of those guys. He's very hard to submit. He's wily, and most of the time he has been submitted once, Miller, by somebody. I'll look it up and get back to you when I finish the train of thought. But Jakar sometimes reverts to Lamprey when he's having a hard time getting a submission, and I think this is going to be one of those cases. He was submitted by Todd Carney back in 2002. Todd Carney's a guy who seemed to obscurely pop up on some people's records, having beaten them, but yet did not have a great career himself. Anyways, Zelg Galatius versus Tai Ikin is happening again. Zelg won the first one by TKO due to a cut. That being said, I think the odds against Tai Ikin are just ridiculous, because he is a huge underdog. He's a guy to bet on because there's a very legitimate chance he could beat Zelg. That being said, I am taking Zelg via second round stoppage. My reasonings are Zelg is a bigger fighter of similar technical ability. Tai Ikin did show some takedown defense, but we still don't know what his takedowns are like, and I think Zelg is probably better on the ground, because Zelg is also starting to show some ground abilities. That basically sums it up. I mean, just bigger, reach advantage, power advantage. Technically, they're close in striking, and sometimes physical size is just enough to give it to you. Yoon Dong Sik, Jagard Mosasi, taking Mosasi by unanimous decision just because Dong Sik Yoon can take ungodly amounts of punishment, and he will stay in the fight. That being said, Jagard Mosasi probably good enough on the ground by now. He's developing some takedown defense. Probably good enough on the ground to avoid Yoon Dong Sik or Dong Sik Yoon's submissions and so on. And he's light years ahead of him on the feet, to the point where, you know, there are very few guys who can strike with Jagard Mosasi in the middleweight division. Shinya Aoki versus Katsuhiko Nagata. I'm taking Aoki to win by tap out. Nagata is not an easy man to tap out. He is a very big lightweight. This is part of the lightweight tournament. He has never been tapped out before, but I mean, it's Aoki. I don't need to say more, really. That rounds off my picks for Dreams. I made back with the tough finale picks, but I don't know. If I'm not, I'll see you when I see you.